Earlier this year, I spent 3 months walking across England, starting in Norfolk, going from Norfolk to Dorset and then following the southwest coast path down to Land's End, turning back around and going up to Bristol. In this video I'm going to show you everything which I had with me in my pack. I started in mid-April and finished at the end of July, so I swapped some things out to suit the changing seasons. I hadn't done any long distance walking prior to this, so there was a process of dialling in my setup which happened over the course of these months. Quite a lot of this equipment I already had from shorter camping trips and bike touring. Okay, so starting off with the things I wore on my person. My boots, these are Mindel mid boots. They're somewhere between a trail runner and a walking shoe. They're light, they're comfortable, they're quite grippy. The Gore-Tex gave out of them ages ago, so they were never waterproof and they gave me wet feet, but they were fine. I'd wear 2 pairs of socks with these. I'd have a morning pair and an afternoon pair, and I'd swap them around so that I'd always had a dry pair. A fleece for when it was cold. Walking trousers, which are great. They've got loads of pockets, they zip off, they're light and they dry nice and quickly. My waterproof jacket, which is an Alpkit jacket I've had for a couple of years. It works well. This here is my tarp, which I use with my bivvy bag as my kind of shelter system. I made this myself using a sewing machine. It's a polyurethane coated nylon. I got all of the fabric, fitments and webbing from Point North Fabric. I spent a good while thinking up the design and doing research on how to make it. It's somewhere between a flat tarp and a catenary tarp. The ridgeline has a small catenary and so do the edges. It's got 2 ridge line tie-outs on it, and then around the edges it has 2 tie-outs on the corners and 1 in the middle. I hadn't used a tarp before this but decided to go for it to reduce my weight. It kept me mostly dry and had quite a lot of versatility in the way that you can pitch it. If I were to make it again, I'd make it slightly larger. I ended up also using it as a pack cover because it worked better than the actual pack cover that I had. And they got caught on some barbed wire towards the end of it and got a bit of a rip in it, but that's been repaired now that I've got access to a sewing machine. Walking poles. I started off with 2 of this same type. I replaced the foam handles on them with some cork from eBay, which I filed down to sort of make cork handles for them. I lost one other pair of them, but luckily I was staying with my brother that evening and he gave me this slightly dodgy replacement one, which served me well. I'd use these for pitching my tarp as well as saving my knees and legs on the steep uphills and downhills on the coast path. In here are my sleeping mats. This dry bag here keeps everything sort of dry. This inner sleeping mat is a Decathlon exercise mat, which I would put down first to protect this second mat, and this is good for doing stretching on in the morning. And then I had this Vango self-inflating sleeping mat, which was really good until it sprung a leak about halfway through the trip, and I couldn't be bothered to repair it or find where the leaks were, so I used it in its uninflated state, which was less uncomfortable than you might think it was. Flip-flops for wearing to the beach and when I wasn't walking. This is a trowel for digging cat holes to go into the toilet with. I had 2 water bottles. This large 1 litre water bottle would live on the side of my pack here, and then on the front I hung this metal one here, which is about 800 millilitres for easy access, often on this carabiner. Then the backpacks itself, which I got off Gumtree last summer for not very much. It's lower alpine, about 45 litres in capacity. It's got a brain with some pockets on the inside. It's got 2 side pockets and it's got a bottom access to it. It was fine for what I paid for it, it did the job, but it was not the most comfortable backpack, especially when I'd weighed it down with lots of food and water. It definitely needed more capacity in it too, because I struggled to fit everything I had with me in it. Also, this spacer mesh that makes up the back of it absorbs your sweat when it's hot, and it really starts to smell after a while. I had to take this off and wash it a few times. It was that bad. So these side pockets here, this side pocket I'd have all my snacks in. It's got nothing in now because I don't have any snacks with me. This one here I'd keep more easy to access things. So the pegs which I used to peg down my tarp with, I had 8 of them when I was walking. They're these kind of Y-shaped ones which are like MSR groundhogs. They're really decent pegs. My Sawyer Mini water filter, I only use this once, and the reason for this is because at the moment the water in this country is so polluted that I didn't trust any of the water sources, especially because I was walking in the south of England where the population is quite dense, and this instinct was proven right when I met a retired mountain guide walking on the coast path. He told me that he'd become unwell even when he filtered and boiled water from a seemingly good source. So because of this, I got all my water from campsites, cafes, pubs, water fountains, etc. It was a real shame because there were places on the coast path, there's loads of streams and not much else, but I just couldn't trust the water on them. This is the filter bag for the Sawyer Mini. I used this when I needed extra water capacity before I made camp or on hot days. In total I could carry about 2.5 litres of water, and with this I could comfortably camp somewhere that didn't have any water and have enough water to cook, wash up, make breakfast and then walk onwards in the morning. This is a bag with more plastic bags in, useful for putting your rubbish in and for storing loose food. Some extra paracord and tie outs for the tarp. Duct tape for doing repairs with. These, I don't know what you call them, like strap things from Decathlon. I'd use them to strap things to the outside of my backpack. Some matches. Insect repellent. This smidge stuff isn't deep and it's good because it works just as well, but doesn't burn your skin or melt plastic. My repair tin, which has some cable ties in, it has this magnet repair tape and also has a needle and thread in that you can't quite see. It came in handy for, also some little tubeless super glue. I mainly use this to try and keep my boots from ripping up too much because they started to die. I also kept some laundry leaves in this pocket for when I needed to wash my clothes at laundrettes. They're lightweight and don't take up much room. Okay, this top pocket here has my sun hat. This is needed because I was walking towards the sun most of the time. It absorbed loads of sweat and became really gross and stained throughout it. I had to wash it a fair few times. A buff, putting around my neck at night and keeping insects off, always great. Sunglasses, I picked these up in Plymouth. A waterproof backpack cover I got from Trespass and wasn't really very waterproof at all. Kind of useless. Monocular, which I got from Go Outdoors in Plymouth. This was really handy for looking out to sea, looking at ships, looking at the moon, seeing if there's a gate in the corner of the field. Head torch from Outkit. This runs on a battery pack inside, which is a USB charge one, but also you can put AAA batteries in it. Some pseudo creme for rubbing into my feet at the end of the day. I find this helps a lot with blisters and general foot care. And that's that in there. Okay, inside pocket now we have cheap headphones for listening to music with, a USB charger and some cables with double things so you can charge 2 things at once, 10,000 milliamp hour power bank, my Kindle, which was really good for putting books on. No one wants to carry like 20 books with them. My notebook, I use this as a journal and a sketchbook. Nice to keep up with doing some drawings, etc. As I went along, made some maps. I also kept a log of how many days I'd been walking at the back. So this recorded how far I walked each day, how much elevation gained that day, and then how much I'd walked in total since the start, and how far I'd climbed in total since the start. And this all starts to add up pretty quickly, and when you've had a bit of a rubbish day, you can look at it and be like, oh, I've walked 800 kilometres and feel a little bit badass. Then I also had pens and pencils in here. I had some watercolour pencils, but I ended up losing the nice green colour from them. The main compartment now, this lovely bag here was my food bag, which I'd have all my food in. I had a plastic cup in here for drinking out of. I'd keep oil in here for cooking with, and a bag with various spices and salt in for seasoning things. These are Trespass waterproof trousers. They were cheap, they worked, they're not amazing. A massage ball from Decathlon, which I didn't really use very much. Fuel, I carried a canister like this from the start, and it lasted me pretty much the entirety of the trip. I had to get another smaller one. A first aid kit, this had all the kind of standard things in, painkillers, etc., plasters. Probably the most important thing in this was the tick remover tweezers, because there are loads of ticks around and I got loads of ticks, but was able to take them off, and fingers crossed didn't have Lyme disease. This bag in here would have my kind of toiletries stuff in, so sun cream, soap, toothbrush, etc. I carried the toothpaste tablets to start off with in here, and they are not very good, so I switched to normal toothpaste because I don't feel these cleaned my teeth very well. This is my cook set. So this consisted of 2 parts. It's got this frying pan to it from Go Outdoors, which I didn't use a whole lot. I actually mainly used it as a chopping board. And then this here, which is the actual cook pot. This is a Sea to Summit one. I love this. This is really, really good. It's got this folding handle. It's got a lid to it. It's got a clever thing where the lid can stay on the side. It's just a really good pot. Inside here I've got like spoons and things. I've got lighter. I've got a knife. I've got a lovely tea towel for drying everything up with. I've got a scrubber for cleaning things with. I've got a foil wind guard for it, which is just made out of folded up kitchen foil. And then I also have finally this Outkit stove, which is currently taken apart in it, but this is an Outkit titanium stove my friend Maya gave me. It was actually broken when I got it, and I didn't realise that until the first night I was camping, and then I couldn't cook anything. But I managed to do a little repair on it, so it was this tube was kind of broken, but yeah, I fixed it, and it's been great since. This dry bag here I kept my spare clothes in. This is a towel that I had, a kind of microfiber one. I started off with a slightly different one, which I kept in at the bottom of my bag after it had gotten damp, and it ended up smelling so bad that even after washing it, it still kind of smells. So I swapped to this one, which seems to suffer from that less. I used this to shower and when I was swimming in the sea and going to the beach. And then we've got just various other bits of clothes in here. This warm hat my friend Will gave me when I went to stay with him in Cornwall. I didn't really need it, but I've used it since and it's really warm. Same for these warm gloves. I didn't use them on this trip, but I've used them since and they're great. My various t-shirts which I wore with me, I had this kind of technical short sleeve one. I had and then these 2 cotton short sleeve ones as well. And you can see on this one that it's been kind of bleached from the sun and all the sweat just from this trip because it was so warm and sunny. And then what else I have in here? Yeah, some underwear as well. I think I had 3 pairs in total. I'd have them on rotation and try to wash everything every week or so if I could. Then finally the bottom of the pack. In here we have so we've got a sleeping bag, which is a Vango sleeping bag, and it's in this little dry bag to help keep it drier. This is rated down to -15, which might seem a bit overkill, but this was one of the items which was a kind of investment for me for doing more trips in the winter, and I decided to go for a down bag, so the pack size and weight benefits over something synthetic. It was surprisingly cold when I started my walk in April. There were a couple of nights early on which were frosty, and this kept me nice and snug in it. However, by the time I reached down to Torquay, it was starting to get really too warm for me. I'd wake up covered in sweat, which didn't really work. So in Torquay, what I did was I bought this and sent this back home. So this is a camping quilt which I got off Amazon. So this camping quilt is really good for the summer. It's warm enough for me when combined with a bivvy bag and a sleeping bag liner. I didn't have any cold nights in it in the summer months when I had it. This is a Tyvek bivvy bag. It's nice and light. It kept me slightly warmer and stopped any drops of rain from sort of sneaking out. It's got a zip up a little bit of it. It also helped keep my sleeping bag clean from dirt and things on the outside. It's not super breathable and would sometimes be a bit damp from condensation, but it dries nice and quickly. This is a sleeping bag liner to help keep me a little bit warmer when I needed it, and to stop my sleeping bag and camping quilt from getting gross. And then finally we've got this insect net, which I bought this to hang up in my tarp to stop getting mobbed by insects at night. Generally I didn't have too much trouble with insects. This was a cheap one from Mountain Warehouse. I think next time I should get one for a slightly finer mesh, because actually what I was concerned about was ticks, and this mesh wasn't sort of fine enough to keep ticks off me. And on my phone I use the following apps. Locus Maps. This is a really good map app. You can download offline maps to use on it. The planning tools in it are really helpful, showing distance and elevation. So to only sort of plan my route up to a week in advance, it was good to be able to change it. There is a free version of it, but you can subscribe for about £1.50 a month and you get more features. The OS Maps app, I don't think this is a particularly good app. It's slow and it's quite buggy. However, the OS Maps themselves are really good for topographic features. They showed the location of access land, which was helpful when I was trying to figure out where I wanted to camp. Net weather rain radar. This is really good and useful when outdoors. You can see incoming rain and make judgments on how long it will last for and how heavy it's going to be. I would look at this instead of a weather forecast most of the time. A tide times app. Once I hit the coast, I got this. On the coast path there's some sections where you're crossing rivers and bays at low tide. We're required to do a bit of forward planning, which this helps with. So there you can see about everything I carried with me on this walk. I've got a lighter pack for it, which I put together, and you'll be able to find it in the video description. I tried to reduce the weight as much as I could before I set off on the walk. I think I started with about 11 kilogram base weight, and then probably reduced that by about a kilo or so over the course of the trip by sending things back I didn't need and swapping equipment out. On average, I would say, with kind of food and things and water, maximum I carried was maybe 18 kilograms, but the average I was probably somewhere around 14. So I've made some videos which describe the route I took on this walk in greater detail if you're interested. Thank you for watching and see you soon.